welcome to TV3. I'm TV3, your host, and of course this past weekend was San Diego Comic-Con. We had everything from great movie trailers, new character reveals, any new comic book adaptations, and so on. But seeing as how this is a toy show, I'm going to go over all the big toy announcements that I found interesting. Of course, we'll round out the rest of the episode by answering some of your comments and questions in the feedback section. Now, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get straight into the news. Alright, so my first stories come from actually the night before SDCC started, and that's from Mezco's previews night where they showed off the latest releases in their 112 Collective series of action figures. And I have to admit, the things they showed off might actually be the toys of the show for me, because first up they got Batman Beyond. Now, for those of you who don't know, Batman Beyond is probably my favorite DC character, definitely one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and I love Terry McGinnis. Now, this version of Batman Beyond obviously does not look like the animated cartoon. It definitely pulls for a more real-world aesthetic, and I think it's cool. It's going to come with the wings, batarangs, a secondary head, and most importantly, it's going to come on a body that can actually pose and do stuff, unlike, regular DC collectibles merchandise. So I'm really excited for this. I can't wait to see it come out. There's no way I'm going to pass on it. I love Batman Beyond. But arguably the more impressive announcements from 112 Collective are their figures for Thor and Hulk from Thor Ragnarok, and they look incredible. Now, bear in mind, again, these are 1/12 scale, so when you look at the Thor and you see that face and you're just like, wow, that really does look like Chris Hemsworth at that scale, it's super impressive. The figure looks great, but as great as he looks, there's no way I could pull away from it. Hulk is the real showstopper here with all his armor on, and he just looks massive and beefy, and this looks like a really cool toy, especially for those Hulk fans who just can't quite shell out the cash for, let's say, a full-on Hot Toys, because those things can get really expensive. This looks like a great alternative, and it is definitely going to be an action figure that you can play with and pose. It's not something you have to worry about deteriorating over time. That's what I love about these 112 Collective figures. So yeah, Thor and Hulk from Ragnarok look magnificent. Might be the best 112 Collective figures I've ever seen, but Batman Beyond for me definitely is the showstopper for my personal tastes. Alright, moving over to the Square Enix booth, and Square Enix, of course known for their PlayArts Kai selection of figures, be it from Final Fantasy to DC to Marvel variants, it's all there, and people love that stuff. However, off in the little corner, they had something there that caught my eye, and it's for their new Bring Arts toy line, which is the, again, 6-inch scale version of toys, and it's not even from Kingdom Hearts, it's from their new video game that came out this year from Nier, and it's the lead character 2B. Now, this is just a gray proto, and I haven't finished the game. Actually, that's a lie. I haven't even started it. There's a couple other interesting things here that I have no context for, but I've always thought that the 2B character design was awesome. It's got this right amount of cool and sex appeal put together. It's really neat. This figure looks great. I know there's a lot of huge Nier fans now that the game's been established as being great and good, so this makes me happy to see this out there, especially it's something that isn't in PlayArts Kai, though I do fully expect that to happen down the road. Nevertheless, this Bring Arts 2B looks great. I can't wait to see more images of it as it develops. Alright, next up is QMX, otherwise known as Quantum Mechanics, and they are a company who are, I suppose, well-versed in sci-fi related merchandise. I especially love QMX because they are very generous to Firefly fans, offering everything from posters, to pins, to statues, to spaceship replicas, and of course, my favorite thing, their 1/6 scale collectibles. Now, they only have one thing out right now, it is the Captain Malcolm Reynolds, and it's a pretty decent 6 scale figure, especially considering it's offered at a much lower price point than, say, something like a Hot Toys. And while the Malcolm Reynolds is good, it could be perfect, it could be better, but I still like it quite a lot. And it looks like they're aiming to improve upon that with their subsequent releases, and they have shown off Jane Cobb and Zoe Wash. I always forget her real last name. I just remember she's married to Wash, but Zoe's great, Jane's great. These are basically Captain Malcolm's right and left on the field, so they are the, I suppose, appropriate releases to do next, and I think they both look pretty good. I think Jane looks incredible in comparison to Zoe. Zoe could be better, but I think it's acceptable, and they both look cool. Of course, there's a picture there showing Jane's iconic hat will be included as an accessory, and I can't wait to see these come out. I just want the whole cast at this point, you know. Give me a wash. I want the pilot. I love Kaylee. Where's my Kaylee at? And of course, Shepard. Hook me up with a Shepard. All right, then Hasbro had a panel, and I'm not really going to touch on these too much because, to be honest, nothing that Hasbro showed off this year at SDCC was too interesting to me. First up, they showed off their first additions into their new Powers of the Prime Transformers toy line, and it all looks like garbage. Hot, steaming garbage. The idea of the evolution Rodimus Prime is cool, the idea and concept of it, but the actual toy looks like trash. And so does the rest of this toy line. I hope I'm proven wrong and that maybe these things are better in hand or that subsequent releases down the line are better, but at the moment, Transformers Generations Power of the Prime looks like garbage and I will not be partaking in any of it. As for Hasbro's Marvel Legends offerings, well, hey, guess what? They showed off more Marvel Legends. All Marvel Legends are the same toy with different paint. That's how I've always felt. If you like the characters, you'll like the toys. I mean, they look pretty decent. Who knows? I will say it's cool that they're starting to introduce vehicles. I believe there's a Black Widow with a bicycle and there's a Ghost Rider with a bicycle. And I know that fans have been clamoring for this stuff for a while now. So to see that Hasbro is starting to introduce vehicles into these 6-inch Marvel Legends is super cool. Also, they have started to do the Star Wars thing where they're releasing 6-inch Marvel Legends of classic characters on vintage cards. Now, I'm not really into this it's not for me, but I understand the appeal of this idea. It's always neat to have vintage characters on large cards. I always think that's a cool idea, and if I were a mint on card collector, I would be all over this. It's not for me, but it's cool to see that, you know, some fans out there do like this kind of stuff, and Hasbro's listening. So it's nice to see them offering all these different ways for collectors to appreciate their comic book heroes. All right, next up is Good Smile Company, and they only showed off one Figma that caught my interest, and it's from Persona 5. It's the hero, of course. It is Figma Joker, and he's in his thieving gear, and it looks real cool. I mean, I love Figmas. I love Persona. We've had the Figmas of the main characters from Persona 3 and 4, and now 5 is here, and 5 looks like the best of the lot so far. It just looks super neat. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, it's a cool character design. What else can you say? He's a thief with a cool mask on. I mean, if you don't like that, then I don't know. All hope is lost on you. Next up are Bandai and their Tamashii Nations line of figures, and specifically we'll start off with SH Figuarts. I suppose the biggest announcement at SH Figuarts was they revealed all of the movie Justice League figures that they're doing, and obviously they're doing the whole set. I don't believe Superman was there, but you know that he's going to be revealed at some point because how can Superman not be in this movie, right? So I don't really want to touch upon these because they honestly haven't really gotten my interest. The only thing I will say is, what happened to Wonder Woman's face? Wow, it looks bad. Now, I know that these figures tend to look better in hand, but these pictures are just so awful that I don't know how that's going to be redeemed in hand. That said, early stages, this is still a prototype technically, so who knows, there's plenty of time for it to change. I got my fingers crossed that it turns out better for those who want a Gal Gadot Wonder Woman figure art. I hope for the best. Anyways, the SH Figuarts announcements that I thought were more interesting are their Street Fighter ones, and they have announced 2 more characters, and the first one is Akuma, which is really cool to see. I mean, I suppose that was a given considering they did a Ryu. The one that caught everyone off guard, though, and got everyone really excited was the announcement of Rainbow Mika, or R-Mika for all you hardcore fans, and she looks great. I think her torso looks a little disfigured because of all the cuts that they had to apply to it to make it a SH Figuart, but I suppose in a more neutral stance it will look better, so I have no major worries about that. The other small Figuarts announcement that I thought was amusing was a reveal of SH Figuarts Gotenks, which is basically the fusion of Trunks and Goten. Now, I like seeing this because it means that there's a smaller Saiyan body, and hopefully we'll get, I don't know, SH Figuarts Kid Goku, please. When Bandai, hurry up. I need my Power Pole and Nimbus. Come on, I gotta fight the Red Ribbon Army. And finally, the last big announcement from SDCC that caught my eye were Bandai's Tamashii Nation's announcements for their Pacific Rim toys. And we'll start things off with the Pacific Rim Uprising Robot Spirits or Robot Damashi. And they are doing pretty much the whole cast. They showed off everything. They showed everyone from Gypsy Avenger to the girl Saber Athena. And I think the big deal about these toys is that not only do they look good, they're going to be affordable. And by affordable, I mean very competitive with what we're used to paying for Western action figures. And for example, the Gypsy Avenger will be retailing for about $20 American, which is very good. Now, last week, I was worried that the robot spirits were going to be tiny, and when I saw the price point, I only thought they were going to get smaller. But the truth is, no, these are relatively meaty figures. These are over 6 inches tall. I believe they're around 6.7 inches tall. So that's a big action figure. That's a nice size. It's an affordable price. Of course, everything about these figures seems too good to be true, so now all I can think about is what did they skip out on to reach the price point? And honestly, I think it's got to do with presentation, namely paint and articulation. Something just from seeing the photos here, they look very glossy. They look very much like unpainted bare plastic, and I am assuming that the articulation isn't going to be as, let's say, dynamic as the standard Robot Spirits releases, which is okay. I mean, they had to hit a price point and they made the sacrifices where it mattered. That's fine. But who knows? I hope I'm proven wrong, and I hope these are just amazing toys at an amazing price. However, the showstopper for Pacific Rim was, of course, the full reveal of the Soul of Chogokin Gypsy Danger. We got a price. It is going to be about 25,000 yen. It's going to come with all the accessories that he should come with or he was seen using in the movie. So the double gun, he's going to have the battleship that he uses as a bludgeoning stick, and he's going to have light up LEDs. It looks incredible, and it seems like he's going to be able to pose and do all the big great poses that he did in the original Pacific Rim. I will say I am disappointed that there isn't a hanger that's included. I feel like it would have been cool if this Soul of Chogokin came with a full-on hanger with small little people serving as its crew. Or at least I think that would have been just a really nice touch. As it stands, it doesn't have it, which, you know, is an acceptable omission, but it's just something that maybe I would have loved to have seen. And that's more or less all the toy announcements that I found to be super exciting over at San Diego Comic-Con. Of course, there's a lot of things that I didn't touch upon because they just don't come in with my interests. So if there's anything that you guys want me to talk about or discuss, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll definitely get to it in the next episode. If anything, I love hearing what you guys are interested in. Alright, before we wrap up, let's answer some questions, and the first one wants to know, what do you use to film your videos, and what do you use to edit them? This is a very common question. I tend to answer it like once every 6 months, but I'll repeat it again. The camera I use is an iPhone. At the moment, it's an iPhone 7. Now, the microphone I have over here, this is a Blue Yeti Standard Edition. Now, to edit them, I use a combination of iMovie for the videos, and for the audio, I record in GarageBand. I stitch them together, and then I just cut them quickly and add all my editing touches to it. It's as simple as that. If you have a phone, chances are you could do the same thing. Why do you have two boom arms? Oh, okay. You guys are probably wondering what these are. Yes, I do have two boom arms here, and the reason I have two boom arms is because there's two microphones on them. Why do I have two microphones on them? Pretty simple. For some of you guys out there who know this, some of you guys don't, I also do a podcast, a weekly podcast with one of my close friends, Anthony, as well as using this space for, you know, this video. This is also the space we record the podcast in. And recently we were just given new microphones and new mixing board and all these new stuff. So I was just in the middle of installing all the stuff to have the recording ready to go. However, our our mixer broke, or it was defective on arrival. So we just have these mics here for show right now. And until things get sorted, they're just going to stay there until we figure out what's going on with that. So yeah, if you want to check out that podcast, just click the link in the corner of the video and you can see what it's all about. What's your favorite mobile suit other than the unicorn from the UC era? I personally love the Blue Destiny and the Alex. My favorite UC suits probably all come from Zeta. I love the Zeta Gundam, I love the Mark II, and I especially love the Hyakushiki. TV3, when you paint your Gundam models, how do you plan your color schemes, and what paint brands do you generally use? I generally don't plan. Honestly, I look at a kit when I get it, and the idea is not to change the colors, it's just to, how can I enhance this color? One of the things about Gundam kits that probably irk me the most is the color of the standard gray that usually makes up most of the inner frame of any Gundam or the joint material. I've always hated that gray. It just looks, I guess, gross to me. So my idea has always just been, what does if this robot were real, would it be a gray plastic? No, it would probably be like a gunmetal. So I painted it gunmetal. Anything from there just tends to be like, well, do I like this color of blue? No, yes, okay, maybe I'll keep, if I like this blue, then I'll just flat coat it. If I don't like it, then I'll change it to something metallic or brighter or darker. It's not really a planning thing, it's just more of, what do I like and what do I see that I think could be better. For paint brands, I stick to Tamiya or Tamiya, whichever way you pronounce it, and I'll sometimes move over to Testors paint, and that's only because sometimes I shop at Michael's Arts and Crafts store, and if you have an app like the Michael's app on whatever phone you have, there's generally a 50% off coupon you can always use once a week. So I use that to fill up on colors or just odds and ends here and there whenever I can. Can we see a what happened behind the review or how you do your reviews, especially how you edit and cut your videos? I'm really interested to see that. So I'll answer this in two parts, and I'll start with the back half. You want to see how I edit and cut together videos? Honestly, you don't need to see me doing that. You can look up any video editing tutorial on YouTube, and it's generally the same thing. The only difference is the pictures you'll see are not Gundams, and the voice you'll see is not mine. It's really just a cut and paste process. If you know anything about video editing, it's all the same across the board. As for my actual setup and the process of how I record and how I decide how to go through things, that's definitely a cool idea, and that's something I've been thinking about. Maybe on a week that let's say is slow on news, or I don't get a lot of toys in the mail, I can replace that segment with a more behind the scenes look. Or I could present the whole thing as a separate behind-the-scenes video series. If that's something that you guys are interested in, just let me know in the comment section below, because I really do want to gauge interest on that. If that's something you want to see as a standalone video series, then for sure I'll do it. Otherwise, sometimes you might see little bits of here and there coming in as filler segments for the TV3 show. Last question wants to know, are you tired of getting all the Gundam-centric questions? Also, what you think of Transformers? Am I tired of Gundam questions? I would say no, I'm not. But then again, I generally don't answer many of them, so it's tough to get tired of something you're not interacting with. As for Transformers, man, I went into that movie thinking that it was going to be awful, like just supremely bad, and nothing could redeem it. But the thing is, you go in and you watch it, and you are just not prepared for just how awful it actually is. Like, it somehow manages to dip below your lowest expectations, and it's kind of amazing in that sense. I almost want to commend Michael Bay on just how bad that movie is. It's incredible. Like, it's weird. It's you thought you knew just how low he could go, but no, it turns out there's a new level, and it's just even lower, and it's awful, and I can't even like that movie. Ironically, it's bad. So wow, what a piece of garbage. And there you have it, another episode of TV3 over and done with. Again, if there's anything from San Diego Comic-Con that you want to talk about, make sure to leave your comment in the comment section below, and I'll definitely get to it in a future episode. Otherwise, that's all from me. I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.